In this country, we are terrible at allowing women to be more than one thing.
Yeah.
And actually what you're doing is quite a radical feminist act. How does it feel now that you, from an outside perspective, are enjoying a phenomenal degree of well-earned and wholly deserved success? You know, between the covers, the greatest book show we probably ever had in terms, viewing figures and cultural conversation, and you're turning 50 this year.
Yeah.
How does that feel at this stage in your life?
It feels pretty good.
Good.
Got to be honest, Elizabeth, it feels great. I'm loving it, but I feel like I'm so different, to how I was back then. And obviously everybody changes as they get older, but I feel like I know my worth much more these days, and I feel like I can acknowledge that I'm a good broadcaster, and that it's the best job in the world. The tea time on Radio 2 is the absolute dream job, and it's really what I wanted to do more than anything. So I feel like it's a real golden time, and I love it, and I work hard at it. I wake up and it's definitely one of the first things I think about right away is the show.
So you're claiming your power, and you said there that you are just about willing to admit that you might be quite a good broadcaster.
That's such a huge leap for me.
I know, I can tell. But your third failure is about your failure to be able to say out loud,
yeah,
I'm an author.
Oh, God. Yeah.
So you couldn't say that now. Are you an author?
No, I don't know. I feel, oh God, sorry. I've gone really fidgety.
Yes, you're
sweaty.
visibly uncomfortable.
Yeah. I feel like there was just so many brilliant books out there. And what's silly is when I read one of my books, I'm like, oh, it's okay. It's good, actually. And I often get that, I don't know about you, but when I read the audiobook and I have to record the audiobook, that's really good for me and for my confidence, because I'm like, actually, that was a great little twist, or that was a lovely little moment, or I could really picture that. And it takes for me to, when I'm reading it out loud, think, oh, actually, this works, and you should be proud of it. But then something happens between that, and then, little voices start to creep in about that it's, I'm not good enough, or I'm not, who do I think I am, straying out of my lane. But I do know, I really, really love writing when it's going well, like anything. But I do struggle to, like when people tell me they've read the book, I get a bit embarrassed, and I'm like, oh my God, really? No. And I get all, and it's not false. It's not a sort of, I'm not being all fake and sort of humble.
I can tell.
Yeah.
Well, I think partly maybe it's because you've been doing it less long, and in your head, because you do have such a strong work ethic, you're like, no, I need to build up the hours. I need to have done it for at least 20 years before I can get to the point of thinking maybe I'm okay at that. But I think also in this country, we are terrible at allowing women to be more than one thing.
Yeah.
And actually what you're doing is quite a radical feminist act.
Yeah, good.
So, yes. So, and that's what you were doing in the era when you were going out and with your female mates, and you were showing that could be a way to be a woman too.
Yeah.
Like that's the through line. But do you think that maybe what you're picking up on is what you worry other people might be thinking? Yeah,
I think so. Yeah, I really. And it's frustrating because actually when it comes to, like you say, when it comes to my broadcasting, I don't feel like that anymore. I feel really confident, and in life in general, I don't really care what people think of me as much. But I think with the writing, I do. Look, it's really difficult to talk about, because I also don't want to put people off reading my books, because I don't want to be too like, oh no, they're terrible, because I know they're not terrible.
I know they're not terrible.
Yeah.
Let me just say that right now.
Thank you.
We'll preface this entire discussion with, Sarah is a brilliant writer, genuinely. And I probably had some of my own prejudice coming to
Yeah.
it, thinking, oh, this is another thing she's going to be great at. Look at her lustrous hair and her brilliant broadcasting, and now this. But genuinely, like, your writing is so engaging and so warm and funny and perceptive.
Yeah.
And it is just,
Thank
you
you.
can't stop reading it. Like, it's such a talent.
Thank you.
Honestly, and I mean that with every fibre of my being. So let's just caveat all of this that
Can
we're
I
talking about
clip
with
that up and just play it to myself every morning before I try and
Yes.
write?
Because I also know, to a much lesser extent, what it's like. You know, there's just the part of being an author which is always living with your permanent inner critic,
Yeah.
who is saying, this is the worst sentence that's ever been committed to paper on the days that it's going badly.
Yeah.
And part of the process is just having to write on through that and get to the point that you
Yeah.
identify, which is you can look back on it and think, oh, that came out of my head. Like,
Yeah.
well done. That's part and parcel of it. But there's a bigger part with you, which is about having a reputation in one area.
Yeah.
And also, it must be quite difficult fronting that books programme.
Yeah, because you do. I mean, I do get asked that. Oh, reading so many books for the book show, does that? You know, do you think that inspires your writing, or do you feel like, you know, you might accidentally, you know, start writing in a certain style of a certain author, and by osmosis, just from holding so many books, like I just start to copy them. And the answer is always no. I mean, I try not to be intimidated by other writers, but you do read so many brilliant books and you're like, God, that's a great sentence. But actually, I don't think that is a bad thing. I think it's good to read, and to read as much as possible. And I don't think it really affects my writing. You know, I mean, I've just got to, you know what I've got to make peace with? I'm a certain sort of writer.
Exactly.
And that's what I've got to make peace with.
As is everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone who is an author is a certain kind of author
Yeah.
who can only write in their own voice.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. This has been really helpful. Thank you.
Anytime.
Please invoice me. What do I owe for this session? It's been so
Nothing.
helpful.
What do I owe you for your lovely books?
But Marianne Keyes said something amazing, like in an interview that I read. I must have been, maybe it was when I was just finishing up way back, maybe. And she said something along the lines of, I just want to tell stories. And I thought, God, that's lovely. That's what I want to do. I just want to tell stories. And there doesn't have to be a massive twist or a deep, dark secret revealed. You know, I do know, just want to tell stories of everyday people trying to pick their way through life and hopefully find a bit of love along the way and have a laugh along the way. And I love writing strong women and funny women and women who support each other. And, you know, I think that's inspired by the brilliant friendships I'm lucky enough to have. So those moments, I love all of that. I love, it's like magic, isn't it? Where you can just create these brilliant women and these great characters. So there's so much of it to love. So what I've got to learn is to, you know, love my own voice.
I hope you enjoyed that video. Be sure to check out the full episode of How to Fail wherever you get your podcasts. And also make sure you're following us on social media for all the latest updates.